Hello and welcome to episode 146 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for joining me on the program today. It is the last podcast before the Nintendo Switch 2 officially comes out. This is also going to be the last podcast before Summer Game Fest officially kicks off. We do have some kind of pre-Summer Game Fest news to cover, as well as a variety of news and stories happening outside of Summer Game Fest as well. I guess it'll also be the last podcast before the heat comes. Not to make this a podcast about the weather where I'm at, but we're looking at about like 25, 28 over the weekend, which is more than hot enough for me. Like, I'm going to be real with you. When the climate change is already here. Climate change is coming. Climate change is already here. And if that upsets you, I don't know what to tell you. But when climate change gets even worse than it already is, I'm guaranteeing you right here, right now, that I will be the first to die as I reach for my Apple Watch, the only thing that I feel like will protect me from inevitable death. It'd be cool if the watch just like told you when you were going to die, but instead it just tells you your heart rate, which is fine. Blood oxygen, among other things. That all being said, the heat, man, I can't handle the heat for the most part. I can't take the heat. It's just not for me. So after this podcast is over, I'm going to take this PC apart. I'm going to dust it out on the old balcony and see if a dust-free PC will be able to handle the summer heat that is rapidly approaching us. But like I said, rapidly approaching. Also, should mention, the Switch 2 is out tomorrow, June 5th. We're recording this June 4th. Switch 2 is going to be out tomorrow. We also got a PlayStation showcase that is happening today. It's a scenario where I'm not going to be able to talk about that today because I'm recording the podcast in the morning. But just a lot of housekeeping news to go through. Let me load up here on my handy dandy computer screen here the things that we're going to be talking about today. A scenario where it was funny, like, as there was a scenario where a big news story happened shortly after the podcast came out, and that's fine. It happens all the time, but it was one of those things where I was like, god damn, like that would have been one I would have loved to talk about on last week's show, but instead we're going to talk about it on this week's show. Before we get to news, I thought maybe we would, I don't have a Switch 2 pre-ordered. There's only so much to say about the Switch 2 because they have not put out advanced copies for people to play, for people to review, and that's fine. I get it to some extent, but what I figured we would maybe do is run down every launch game that'll be available day one for the Nintendo Switch 2. What do you say about that? So I got every game here that's going to be coming out on the Nintendo Switch 2, and let's run through it. What do you say? What do you say? So like I said, that console's out tomorrow, June 5th. Some of these games are going to be old games. Some of these games are going to be new games. Some of these games are going to be remastered, re-updated versions of those old games. So I figured I'll give you the game, and I will give you the price in US dollars, and then you tell me what you think. So first, Nintendo Switch 2 launch games, we got Arcade Archives 2 Ridge Racer. That is a re-release of the arcade version of Ridge Racer. That's the original Ridge Racer arcade version of that game. The game is going to be $17 when it launches on Switch 2. We got Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster. That is $40. That is a update of the 3DS version of the game with a variety of upgrades to go with it as well. Civilization 7, that is the Nintendo Switch 2 edition upgrade. It is going to be $10 to do the upgrade or $60 to buy the new game, Civilization 7, also appearing on the Nintendo Switch 1. Cyberpunk Ultimate Edition, that is the main game. That is also the expansion of the game rolled up into one that was built for the ground up for the Nintendo Switch 2. And that's going to be $70 US when it launches on June 5th. We have Deltarune. This is the successor to Toby Fox's hugely successful game, Undertale. It is something of a work in progress, but you can jump into the game right now. You are going to be getting chapters 1 and 2. You will also be getting 3 and 4 as well for the game. That's going to be $25. Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, Nintendo Switch 2 edition. That is going to be it's a weird price of $62.58. They did put out a version of this on the Nintendo Switch 1 already. And it's going to be $2.59 to upgrade the game, from what I can tell. German indie studio Shinin, SHIN''EN. They have been working on a variety of spiritual successors to games such as F-Zero and games like Wipeout with their fast racing series. This is a game called Fast Fusion, a follow-up to Fast Racing League, Fast Racing Neo, and Fast RMX. It is the 4th entry, and it brings the series up to 4K HDR support. It'll also feature split-screen local multiplayer and 60 frames per second. Fortnite coming to Switch. This is the built from the ground up Switch 2 version of the game. The Switch 1 version will not be available. Oh, I should mention, Fast Fusion, $15. Fortnite free, but I imagine by the time everything is said and done, you will have spent a good chunk of change on Fortnite. I know I have. Hitman World of Assassination Signature Edition. That is Hitman 1, 2, and 3 rolled up into one. The Signature Edition also includes the Hitman 2 expansion pack, which includes 2 additional levels in Hitman. However, it looks like this Hitman will not have an upgrade version. So if you bought the Hitman 3 upgrade version, you would, for Hitman 3 version on Switch, you're not going to be able to upgrade. It's going to be $60. But hey, listen, I got to be on a $60 for Hitman 1, 2, and 3, plus the expansion content is a hell of a deal. So if it ends up being a good version of the game, I think Hitman World of Assassination is an incredible video game, no matter how you slice it. Hogwarts Legacy, if you bought the Switch version, you can upgrade to $10. If you did it, it is going to be $60. That will support 1440p resolution when docked at 1080p when in handheld. It'll also support NVIDIA's DLSS upscaling technology, which will feature improved lighting, shadow quality, anti-aliasing, and much more significantly upgraded graphics for a deeper immersive experience. Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess, that was a game that came out last year, actually about around this time last year. Your friends and mine over at Capcom. It's an action strategy game, and it's going to be $40 when it launches on the Nintendo Switch 2. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Nintendo Switch 2 edition is going to be $10 if you're doing the upgrade, $70 if you don't already own the game. For The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Nintendo Switch 2 edition, it's going to be $10 for the upgrade or $80 US if you don't already own the game. Mario Kart World, as we already know, $80. Nintendo Welcome Tour. Sorry, let me get the full name correctly. This Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour is going to be $10 US. If you don't know what this is, it is a game, I guess you could call it a game, that is designed to explain all the features of the Switch 2 in an entertaining way with a series of mini games and a scavenger hunt that takes place in a museum shaped like an enormous Nintendo Switch 2. We also got confirmation that Hello Games is going to be putting out No Man's Sky Nintendo Switch 2 edition. That is going to be $60 when it comes out. Nobunaga's Ambition Awakening Complete Edition, that's going to be $70 when it comes out. Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S, which is a sequel to Puyo Puyo Tetris 2. If you don't know, Puyo Puyo is a color matching game that takes place in a grid shaped similar to Tetris. And in this, they've come up with a lot of different ways to match Puyo Puyo games with Tetris games, and I think Puyo Puyo Tetris is a real hoot, and you can get it on Switch 2 for $40 US. Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma Nintendo Switch 2 edition, that is going to be $10 to upgrade. It is going to be $70 if you don't already own the game. This is in rough Japanese currency, this next game, and I couldn't tell you. I've never heard of this. It's called Shine Post Be Your Idol. It's going to be about 8,800 yen, or around $60 US. This is based on the Shine Post manga and anime. Be Your Idol is a management simulation game where you act as a new manager of an idol office, auditioning young women to see if they could be the J-pop stars of the future. Sonic X Shadows Generations, $40 on Switch 2. Split Fiction is also going to be, sorry, did I say $40? $50 for Sonic X Shadows Generations. $50 for Split Fiction. Street Fighter 6. There's going to be a couple of different versions of Street Fighter 6. You can get the base game for $40. You can also get the upgrade edition that includes the Year 1 and Year 2 fighter upgrade pack for $60. Oh my god, these names. Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster, Gate Rune and Duan Unification Wars. They're going to, Konami is running a pre-order special price for pre-orders for Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster. You can get it for $40 now up until June 4th. Otherwise, it's going up $10 to $50. Survival Kids is going to be $60. That is actually a game developed by Unity, made by the people that run the Unity engine. And that's going to be $50 when it comes out. Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, that is going to be $50 when it comes out. And as a reminder, the Director's Cut version of Yakuza 0 will feature exclusive, never-before-seen cutscenes, along with a English voice acting to go with the game as well. It'll also feature a new Red Light Raid online 4-player mode with up to 60 playable characters. Now, that is all of the kind of base Nintendo Switch 2 games coming out day one for the console. But wait, there's more. The Switch 2 will also feature the Nintendo Classic Collection for GameCube. If you want to see what is already available on NES and SNES and Game Boy, go look that up. But what you're getting now is GameCube, and with GameCube, this is, you have to get the subscription. This is their PlayStation Plus thing, your Game Pass thing. You got to get the subscription. But if you do that, you get such GameCube games as F-Zero GX, Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2. Now, there are a variety of games that are going to be getting free Switch 2 upgrades as well. There are going to be 51 worldwide games that are going to be getting these upgrades. Game share support, up to 4 players can play 34 games. A couple of the games that are going to be getting updates are going to be ARMS, visually optimized for Nintendo Switch 2, Big Brain Academy, Brain vs. Brain, Captain Toad, Treasure Tracker, Game Builder Garage, new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, then Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, Super Mario Odyssey, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. And all those games are going to have a variety of, little upgrades, little sprinkling of fidelity increases here and there. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we got more news. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show of shows. We're going to kick things off talking a little news. In this news story, I think there's two ways we can kind of look at this news story. On one hand, it is, it's a horrible loss for the people involved, the people working at the studio, for the people working on this game. It's also a scenario where there was not a lot of information to go off of this game and the direction the studio was heading in and all that stuff. We just knew that it existed. And I think in a world where so many games are struggling to get out the door, when so many games are, struggling with scope and direction, I think when you don't hear about something at all, it's probably worse than if we, heard it was just being rebooted, taking its time and all this stuff. That being said, I mean, companies have shut down, games have been closed for lesser reasons than that. But EA has canceled its Black Panther game. It has also closed the studio working on it, which was Cliffhanger Games. Publisher set to lay off more employees. So this is according to a report from IGN. The publisher has shut down Cliffhanger Games and is attempting to place staff affected in other roles across the company. The report says EA will also be laying off other staff on its mobile and central teams, and a round of layoffs separate to those last month, which saw 300 to 400 staff laid off across EA, including 100 at Apex Legends studio Respawn Entertainment. The publication has forwarded an email sent to staff from EA Entertainment President Laura Miele, which says the cancellation of the Black Panther game is part of EA's effort to sharpen our focus and point our creative energy behind the most significant growth opportunities. Miele's email also says EA Entertainment, which is a separate division to EA Sports, will mainly focus on Battlefield, The Sims, Skate, and Apex Legends going forward, though development will also continue for Motive's Iron Man game and Respawn's third Star Wars Jedi game. If you don't know Cliffhanger Games, they were formed in 2021. It was led by Kevin Stevens, who was boss of Warner Brothers Monolith during the development of Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor and Middle-earth: Shadow of War. In addition to leaders from those games, Cliffhanger's team included veterans of franchises including Halo, God of War, Call of Duty, according to EA. The Black Panther game was being developed in collaboration with Marvel Games. Last year, Steven said, "We want our game to enable players to feel what it's like to be worthy of the Black Panther mantle in unique story-driven ways, and we want Cliffhanger Games to empower everyone on our team as we collaborate to bring this amazing world to life. We're still in early stages in development with a long road ahead, but we know the foundation to any great story is to build an experienced team with diverse voices and perspectives, and that's what we want to build, especially with a superhero as important as Black Panther." I think it becomes a scenario where, yes, they talked something of a big game last year. They have never showed anything of this game. Like, we don't know what state the game was in. Like, there were kind of these talks about, like, oh, you're going to be able to play this or do that, or there's like, oh, you're going to play as T'Challa's son, and you're going to be taking on Skrull as part of this game. But the other thing to note is that, like, these folks at Cliffhanger Games have had a kind of a tough road for some time because they were the folks at Monolith. And if you know anything about Monolith, the last game that Monolith really put out was that Middle-earth: Shadow of War game. That's because Monolith were working on the Wonder Woman game that got canceled, right? That studio got shut down. So this is a scenario where like some of these folks have not put out a game since 2017, which is fucking crazy. You would think bare minimum a game would come out from this studio or from these people since 2017, but no, Wonder Woman got canceled. Monolith got shut down. The people that left Monolith went on to EA to go work at Cliffhanger. They were going to work on Black Panther. That got shut down. That game got canceled. That studio got laid off. This is, you know, a reminder of how truly end of an era this this studio and the history of these people really is. And it also wasn't that long ago that Monolith got shut down. I mean, gosh, it was in February of this year. So I wish everybody the best of luck with moving on to whatever they're going to be doing at EA or forming another studio. If they do get around to forming, I mean, listen, you got a lot of experienced people that were sitting there banging their heads hungry at Monolith. If you want to get the band back together in some way, shape, or form for something like, you know, a new Monolith-esque studio with people from Monolith and from Cliffhanger Games, I would love to see that happen. It's just such a shame because, like, man, these folks made some incredible games over the years. I love the Fear games, and I'll tell you why. There aren't a lot of games that combine first-person shooting with horror, like genuinely exciting kind of modern military shooting with first-person horror the way that Fear did. Fear is a phenomenal game. Monolith worked on Fear 1 and 2. People have a lot of nice things to say about No One Lives Forever, a series that I really need to get into at some point in time. Those are much older games, 2000, 2002. They also worked on Middle-earth Shadow of War and Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, which I think are great games. They also did Condemned. Again, another scenario where like just brutal, violent first-person melee action mixed with a wonderful sense of survival horror and like the cop detective work, which is really, really cool. And that's at Monolith. And I'm kind of waxing maybe a little bit of poetic with Monolith because a lot of those people would have gone on to Cliffhanger Games and stuff like that when they got shut down. So anyways, long story short, I do wish everybody at Cliffhanger Games the best of luck. I'm very curious to know, like, what is EA going to do? What are they going to, okay, so you have Motive working on, I'm going to look up the EA games being developed right now. Let's see here. Scroll down. So we have an untitled Iron Man game that is being worked on at Motive. Okay. We have an untitled Battlefield game worked on by DICE. We have 2 games at okay. This list is so crazy because when you look at it, it just seems so, you know, delicate. And it seems like any of these games should get canceled at any time at EA. Let me like clearly run down this list. Someone's working on a Need for Speed mobile game. Someone is working on a Plants vs. Zombies 3 game. That's also a mobile game. Someone is working on something called Rust Heart. We don't know what that game is or what consoles is coming out on. Skate, the free-to-play skate game that's coming out on consoles and PC. That is out in like closed beta for those that want to play it. There is an untitled game from Respawn. There is a untitled sequel to Star Wars Jedi Survivor, also from Respawn. Motive is working on an Iron Man game. BioWare is working on a new Mass Effect game. DICE is working on a new Battlefield game. Project Renee is another Sims game worked on by Maxis. And then there is a third untitled Marvel game that we don't know who's working on it. We don't, and that's not even the Black Panther game, right? There was that Star Wars first-person shooter that Respawn was working on. That got canceled. There was the Black Panther game. That was canceled. And I look at this list and I'm just like, what is stopping EA from saying, well, you know what? We really need Motive to help us with not Dead Space, to help us with something like that new Battlefield game. So we're going to cancel that. Like, if I'm Disney, I'm thinking, do I even trust EA at this point to put these games out that we agreed on, right? The last game that Motive worked on was Dead Space, a phenomenal game. But it also wasn't that long ago that we were talking about Motive also being responsible to help on the Battlefield game. So they already have some amount of resources being siphoned away from that untitled Iron Man game going towards Battlefield, right? And what do you think EA gives more of a shit about? Iron Man or a property that they wholly own the rights to, right? I'm not saying that EA is actively, maliciously developing Iron Man in an attempt to siphon money towards Battlefield. Like, I'm not, don't get it twisted. I'm just saying that, like, when you have a lot of irons in the fire, such as trying to get Battlefield back to a state where people give a shit about it, and you already committed some amount of motive to working on whatever Battlefield you're working on, then yeah, how much resources are you actually going to have towards that Iron Man game? I would not be surprised if that Iron Man game does get canceled, considering it is very much in a scenario like Black Panther, where we've heard about it, we know people are working on it, and they've shown nothing of it so far. I could also very easily see that untitled Marvel game to never see the light of day, never even be told what it's based on or anything like that. I could easily see, considering what EA has done to BioWare, especially post the Veilguard, again, a scenario where I could see that get canceled in a heartbeat, and we just never see another Mass Effect thing again for like 10 years. It is rough times at EA. There's no other way to describe it. EA has got some irons in the fire, mostly in the form of sports games, which, in fairness, what EA has done is they've taken EA Sports and made it a separate division of the larger parent company. So those that are working on EA Entertainment are the people working on Iron Man, Mass Effect, Battlefield, The Sims, etc., versus the people working on EA Sports is, those yearly sports games. I don't know where Skate falls into this. I would not be surprised if, because they consider it a live service game that doesn't come out every year, I imagine it's a scenario where Skate is part of the EA Entertainment branch of Electronic Arts, because then it's easier to gut the team and fire everybody if the game doesn't work out. That's what I think, anyways. When we don't know when that Skate game is coming out, they're still saying, hey, we want to put it out sometime this year. But don't know just yet. This was part of Summer Game, like we're talking about like Summer Game Fest. This was kind of part of the pre-Summer Game Fest thing that I was talking about. There was a State of Unreal presentation which was a showcase dedicated to talking about the Unreal Engine. This is put on by Epic, and I didn't get a chance to watch the presentation, but they kick things off with a showcase by CD Projekt Red, the developers of The Witcher 4, and they were there to show off a technological showcase set in the world of Witcher 4, running on a base model PS5 with ray tracing enabled. This is what they were there to talk about. Now, for context, first of all, you should look at what they showed, because what they showed was technically phenomenal looking. It looked really, really nice. I did see a little bit of that. It looked incredible. The thing that I would say is that this is not gameplay. This is not how the game is going to play. This is instead a tech demo set within the Witcher 4 world. Basically, as told, so basically, Video Games Chronicle, shout out to Video Games Chronicle, confirmed with this with CD Projekt Red. They said, this is a tech demo and a first look at the cutting edge technology powering The Witcher 4, but it is not The Witcher 4 itself. It showcases the powerful foundation we're building in close collaboration with Epic Games to push open world design further than ever before, and the core systems and features we're developing using Unreal Engine 5. We are really proud of this early milestone and excited to give you a sneak peek at some of the cool tech like UAF, nanite foliage, smart objects, ML deformer, and fast geo streaming that are helping shape the future of The Witcher. Again, this is a scenario where I cannot quite visualize this for you. You would have to like I got it loaded up here in the video version of the game. Hold on one second. Let me just adjust the video quality. Whoops. So yeah, if you're watching this, this is a 1080p version of the video that we're looking at. So basically what you see on screen is what I'm looking at as well. And like I said, it looks very, very nice, but you can tell just by looking at it that like there is no game there. To describe it, it is Ciri, the main protagonist of The Witcher 4, walking through like an open world kind of mountainous region. You know, Ciri sees a horse. There's a little bit of a cutscene. Ciri's talking to a horse, and stuff like that. But again, there is no game here. Like, do not be like, oh my god, I can't believe this is. She gets on the horse. Spoilers. And again, rides through this open world. Do not get it twisted and think that this is what, you know, the game is going to play like. They slowed. They do a slow motion of like, look at the horse's muscles and the way the horse like moves, and here are all the muscles working in tandem. And I don't know, did they mocap a horse? I couldn't tell you. But long story short, this is not a real video game in the sense that that's how you're going to play the game. It might not even be how the game looks. We could see them tighten up and improve the graphics beyond this. They could maybe struggle to scale the graphics to what the open world and what the gameplay is actually going to be like, right? Like, think, for example, this is like a forest, you know, wintry region, all this stuff, but there's nothing really in it. It's trees. There's no enemies to fight. There's no quests to do. There's no people there and all of this stuff. So there's a potential that this game will look really, really good by the time we're done. There's also every possibility that this game does not look anything like it. You know, they do eventually get to a point where they're kind of taking you through the town and the people there, and they're, oh, we're at a fish market and this guy's selling fish. But like, even Ciri walking through the town and seeing people, you can tell there's nothing to interact with. These people are very much on like loops of some kind. It is very canned. It's very staged. It's not real. It's unreal. Jokes. But again, I'm very excited to see how this game shape up because it looks gorgeous from the technical showpiece that they had. And you should watch it if you get the chance, but it is not a real video game, at least not yet. Moving on. PlayStation. PlayStation is doing a state of play. They're going to be participating in Summer Game Fest. They're going to be participating in Summer Game Fest today, 2 p.m. Pacific, Wednesday, June 4th. It is going to be a 40-minute long showcase that will give news and updates on must-play games coming to PS5. Now, if I'm being honest, I am really hoping that we see a lot of PC games as part of this as well. I would love to see PlayStation continue to commit to, PC versions of their games. I am a little behind on some of the PC versions. You'll have to forgive me. I still haven't played The Last of Us Part 2. I still haven't played Spider-Man 2 yet, but I would really like to, and I'm hoping that is going to be there as well. There's not a lot that's known of which games will be featured. PlayStation Studios has planned for Ghosts of Yotei, Marathon, and Saros to come out this year. We still don't know if Marathon is getting delayed. Last rumors were that they were canceling internal plans to market the game, which, if you have not announced any marketing plans, but you're canceling them internally, you probably don't have a game to market anytime soon, which would probably lead people to wonder if Marathon is being delayed internally or not. Other titles that could still receive a release window included Naughty Dog's new game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Project, Marvel's Wolverine, and Fair Games. If you remember, Jade Raymond, who was heading the team working on Fair Games, recently departed the studio. We don't know what is going on there or not. The announcement verifies claims made by Giant Bomb journalist Jeff Grubb, who stated that his sources told him Sony was more likely to hold a state of play instead of a full-on showcase. Now, Grubb said back in February that, according to his sources, Sony hadn't yet decided whether to hold its annual PS5 showcase this summer or a smaller state of play. In the new claim made last month, he said the company had likely opted for the latter. Grubb says, I said a couple of months ago that I heard that they were discussing going back and forth about doing a showcase or a state of play. Sounds like they probably settled on a state of play. I'm not 100% about not 100% about the aspect of it. It's probably a state of play though, but I heard June. Grubb also noted that his sources were less willing to discuss when Sony's next presentation would be compared to his previous discussions with them, leading him to believe that there may be big announcements being kept under wraps. So the question becomes, like, how big is this state of play going to be? Are they going to try to fit a full Sony showcase into a state of play or not? My expectations say probably not. They might try to split the difference. You know, I think by showcasing something like Marvel's Wolverine, I think you probably split the difference a little bit by doing that. You know, they just announced the Heretic Project at the Game Awards. I don't know if that game's ready to be shown off in any way, shape, or form. I also don't know if showing another trailer like what we saw at the Game Awards is going to do anything for the profile of Intergalactic. I think Naughty Dog should show the game when they're ready to show the game, and when they show the game, it should be something somewhat substantial. And in the case of Fair Game, that is a game that is kind of in a marathon-esque murky period right now, where we've heard of the game. We don't know really anything about the direction that game has gone since its development. We know that it was going to be a live service type game, and we know that Sony has done all but succeed in the world of live service games up until this point. The one exception being the continued development of Destiny 2, which you could argue is kind of in a maintenance mode to some extent. They are putting out new content for that game, but it's not like they're making, you know, huge changes to Destiny 2 that is meant to attract a new audience the way that a new game in a live service format would from Sony, right? You'd think that like Marathon would be designed to attract new players in a way that the current state of Destiny 2 never quite could. Fair Games probably in a similar boat, where it's meant to attract new revenue streams and new players, things like that. So my prediction is we probably see one or two more games eventually make their way to PC. I couldn't tell you what those games are. I am going to look up Sony's current games, and I'm just going to see if there's anything that I missed over the last little bit that could eventually make its way to PC. Sony Interactive Entertainment Games, PlayStation 5. Days Gone is already on PC. So when I look at this, Lego Horizon Adventures is already out on PC. Last of Us Remastered out on PC. Horizon out on PC. Helldivers out on PC. Stellar Blade is already out on PC. Rise of the Ronin is already out on PC. Do you think we ever get to a point where they put out MLB The Show on PC? Does that ever happen? Could we see a new MLB game on PC? That would be something. The other thing is they already put out Marvel Spider-Man 2 on PC. Uncharted is out on PC. God of War Ragnarok is out on PC. Forbidden West is out on PC. Ghost of Tsushima is already out on PC. There are like two games that stick out to me as games that could eventually make their way to PC. And those games are Gran Turismo 7 and Astrobot. And both of those games are so intrinsically tied to a PlayStation, right? When you think Gran Turismo, you think it's history with PlayStation. And when you think, when you think Astrobot, you think about how much it is tied, that story of the game and the iconography and the visuals and the style. So much of that is also tied to PC. So I start to wonder, like, do we get either of those games on PC? Does it make sense to get one of those games on PC? It's really, really hard to say. If we go any further back, we're looking at games like Demon Souls that could eventually come to PC. If we go any further than that, we're basically looking at like Bloodborne or something like that. Like, I just like everybody's golf. Does Hot Shots Golf make its way to PC? There's nothing necessarily stopping that from coming to PC, but right now Sony does not have a lot of new, like, the way Sony did things is they put out a PlayStation game and then like 12 to 18 months later, they put out the PC version of that game, or they did a remaster of that game, or so on and so forth. They've not put out a lot of games recently to make their way to PC. So as much as I'm selfishly looking forward to those games continuing to come to PC, they do not have a lot of games at the moment to supplement that continued release cadence. I don't really know what to say. It's hard. I was talking to somebody about this. It is so much easier to predict what we can expect at the Xbox showcase compared to the PlayStation showcase, because Xbox has a lot of announced games that we just need to see more of. Sony has not a lot of announced games, so we don't even know what to expect. Like, my predictions are maybe a couple of games make their way to PC, whatever those games may be, and probably we're going to see a lot of third-party exclusives, right? You think about a game like Rise of the Ronin, or Stellar Blade, or, you know, maybe we see Resident Evil 9 come out as an exclusive, timed exclusive potentially. I think it would really suck if Resident Evil 9 specifically made its way to PlayStation as a timed exclusive, but Sony doesn't even have a lot of other things. So if they want to open up the checkbook and start buying up some console exclusives, at least as partial timed console exclusives, they could very easily do that as well. But we'll see, right? You know, Capcom has also done business deals with Xbox. They had Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess. That was a Game Pass game. They had Exoprimal. That was a Game Pass game. So we'll see. There is every possibility that Capcom does do deals with Xbox, but we won't know until, well, we probably won't know if Resident Evil is not shown at the Sony showcase. You know, there's every possibility that Sony is holding its cards for something like Summer Game Fest as well. Like, you know, they could be doing a deal with Jeff Keighley. It's really hard to say. And they could very easily be doing a deal, Capcom could very easily be doing a deal with Summer Game Fest for Resident Evil 9, or with Xbox for Resident Evil 9. But we won't know until 2 p.m. and then we'll start to get some answers. Now, this should surprise nobody. I want to tell you, so, you know, a lot of the conversation is around what will be at Summer Game Fest. What can you expect? Who will be there? What games will be shown? What showcases and events will be held as part of the Summer Game Fest? But I'd like to talk to you about what will not be there. And this should surprise nobody. I can confirm that there will be no Ubisoft Forward event this year for the first time since it started. Now, Ubisoft has been doing these annual showcases since 2020. This is the first time it is not happening. The company will participate in Summer Game Fest. They'll also be at the PC Gaming Show and IGN Live. They'll also be at Gamescom in August. Now, this is coming from GameFile journalist Stephen Totillo, who posted on Blue Sky that a Ubisoft representative confirmed to him that there would be no Ubisoft Forward this summer. They said, "We are always eager to connect with our players and showcase our games. We are continuing to explore opportunities to share updates, and we look forward to providing more information at a later date," the representative told Totillo. Totillo noted that Ubisoft may not have many games planned for the rest of the year, making a full presentation as opposed to showing trailers at another show potentially unnecessary. Totillo on Blue Sky, quote, "I don't think Ubisoft has a big lineup for the rest of the year. Plus, it's in cost-cutting mode, so it's not shocking that they're skipping. It's still curious to me, though, that AC Shadow's roadmap only specifies releases through June as a vaguer later this year for the game's first expansion," which then begs the question, are they going to do additional expansions for Assassin's Creed Shadows after that first one comes out or not? Now, for context, this news marks the first year without a Ubisoft Forward since the show made its debut in 2020. The company generally saves its biggest game reveals and announcements for its Ubisoft Forward presentation. Last month, Ubisoft revealed its decision to delay major unannounced titles to give them additional development time. Although Ubisoft did not specify which games were delayed, its statement strongly suggests that there are titles in its biggest franchises such as Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Ghost Recon, and Rainbow Six. Sharing the news in its latest earnings release, the publisher pointed to its decision to delay Assassin's Creed Shadows late last year and its subsequent successful release and positive reception earlier this year. Ubisoft also confirmed that the long-delayed Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake will release during its current business year, which ends in March 2026. Earlier this year, Ubisoft announced its plans to form a subsidiary which will focus on its three main IPs and be partially owned by Tencent. The new subsidiary will be based on Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six brands, and will be backed by greater investment and boosted creative capabilities in an attempt to push each series forward. So, I think they probably show that Prince of Persia: Sands of Time game at one of the showcases. I think that could be a possibility, right? Maybe they have a date for it, because they have less than a year to get that game out. So maybe they could pull out a release date. I could also very easily see a scenario where they don't hold they hold their release date until the Game Awards. That is a possibility as well. There were rumors of constantly kicking around of a new Splinter Cell game. There were rumors kicking around of a new Rayman game. If those games are real, I think we're probably looking at a scenario where maybe they show off the expansion for Assassin's Creed Shadows. Maybe they show off Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. Maybe they show off Rayman. It's hard to say. I don't think they have any Ghost Recon games at the moment. I don't think Splinter Cell is in the shape to show if it's a real thing. Far Cry, I don't think Far Cry is much of anything at this point. So yeah, it makes but basically my way of saying it makes total sense for none of this to be a priority for Ubisoft in a way that, encourages them to run a showcase such as last year's Forward, which is why they're not doing it this time. Now, I want to talk about a company that is doing a showcase, and they're doing one for the first time. IO Interactive has announced its first showcase, which is going to feature Hitman, 007, and Mind's Eye. If you remember, they are publishing Mind's Eye. That is from the former Rockstar and Grand Theft Auto people, Build a Rocket Boy. They're going to show more Hitman. I don't know what sort of Hitman they have. But they've also confirmed that their next game, 007, has an official title. It is 007 First Light. And the first IO showcase will take place later this week on June 6th. It is going to have an in-person event taking place in LA during Summer Game Fest. And the showcase will stream the broadcast of that event. According to IO, the event will focus on new details for Hitman: World of Assassination, Mind's Eye, and the recently re-announced 007 First Light. The event is set to feature trailers, announcements, gameplay demos, and a live Q&A with key figures from IO Interactive, Build a Rocket Boy, and more, as well as a look at the studio's proprietary game engine Glacier. Additional surprises and special guests are also promised for the show. The event celebrates our 25th year history with the Hitman franchise and shares an in-depth look at the diverse future of our studios. IO Interactive CEO Hakan Abrak said in a statement, "We've prepared some truly exciting surprises." Earlier, IO confirmed that its upcoming James Bond game, which had previously been just titled Project 007, will be called 007 First Light. Although no further information had been provided, IO has said that First Light would be getting game reveal this week, which it now emerges will take place at the IO Showcase. That is happening June 6th, 6 p.m. I am very excited about this. I gotta be honest, I'm not particularly excited about what Mind's Eye is and what Build a Rocket Boy is working on. Like, Mind's Eye looks incredibly generic as of right now, but I'm always excited to hear about the future of Hitman. I'm very curious to see what that 007 game is, and I'll tell you more about it next week when they do their showcase. Star Wars Jedi director Stig Asmussen has formed a team called Giant Skull and is working with Wizards of the Coast on a action-adventure game set in the Dungeons and Dragons world. There is not a lot of information to go off of, other than they're describing it as a AAA single-player focused action-adventure utilizing Unreal Engine 5. Our talented and experienced team at Giant Skull is built on creativity and curiosity. Our goal is to craft a rich new Dungeons and Dragons universe filled with immersive storytelling, heroic combat, and exhilarating traversal that players will fully embrace. Wizards of the Coast President John Haidt said, "Stig and the team at Giant Skull are exactly the type of exceptionally talented creators we want to work with, and I'm so happy to be reuniting with him on this new project. In our time working together on God of War, I got to see firsthand Stig's artistry and expertise, and he and the Giant Skull team are the perfect fit for our new game." Yada, yada, yada. World building, storytelling, playing to win strategy, all the stuff that you know and love from Wizards of the Coast. There's every possibility that they call this another Baldur's Gate game. In fact, if I'm Wizards of the Coast, I would call this game Baldur's Gate something, even if it is not, tied to what Larian did with Baldur's Gate 3. I think that would make a lot of sense, especially because Larian has moved on to other games and they are not working on a Baldur's Gate 4. Another scenario where, you announce these games and you don't show them and there's nothing, it's radio silence, it's all vague, it's just there's nothing to go off of, typically means that those games are not doing so hot and could very easily get canceled. People Can Fly has canceled 2 games, including a Square Enix project. The Gears of War and Outrider studio looks set to make some layoffs. Project Gemini, an unannounced game which was set to be published by Square Enix, along with a separate unannounced VR game referred to as Project Bifrost, have both been canceled. People Can Fly reportedly laid off over 30 developers working on the unannounced Square Enix game last January. Quote, "The suspension of the Gemini project is a consequence of the fact that the publisher has not presented us with a draft of the subsequent content rider to the publishing agreement covering the terms and conditions of further milestones on Project Gemini, and the lack of communication from the publisher as to its willingness to continue or terminate the Gemini project." So, just for context, when you are a developer, like a third-party developer working with a publisher who does not own you, like if you are just an independent studio, not independent in the sense that like indie games, but if you're not like owned by anybody necessarily, and you are like, "Oh, I'm so-and-so, and I'm going to make a game for EA, but EA doesn't own me," or whatever, Usually, as you are developing the game, as that project goes along, you are presented with milestones on, hey, we're hoping to have the game in this state in the next 6 months, in the next year, in the next 2 years, whatever. We're hoping that the game comes out in 2027 or whatever the case may be. And with those milestones, typically comes with, funding to help get that game out the door. They typically don't give you all of the money up front. Instead, the funding comes in the form of milestones. And if the publisher doesn't talk about the terms and conditions for those milestones, you're probably not going to get the money. And if the if the publisher isn't communicating what they expect from the game, then it is very possible that they don't care about the game. They want to cancel the game, or they're thinking about canceling the game, which is what seems to be happening in the People Can Fly as relates to Project Gemini and their working relationship with Square Enix. If you don't know, they have worked with Square Enix in the past because Square Enix published Outriders. Now, with Project Bifrost, it was suspended due to the above and the analysts of the group's cash flow, which showed a lack of prospects for securing organizational resources and funds necessary to continue the production and the release of the project. As a result, we have to significantly regroup as a studio and scale down our teams, which hurts the most. We wish to express our deepest regret and sadness over how these events have unfolded and our sincere gratitude for everyone's contribution up to this point. People Can Fly celebrated its 20th anniversary in 2022 and was owned by Epic Games from 2012 to 2015. The developer is behind Painkiller, Bulletstorm, Gears of War Judgment, and Square Enix's Outriders. The studio is also working on multiple projects, including this year's Xbox title, Gears of War E-Day, and an unannounced game using the PlayStation IP. So we don't know what PlayStation IP it is. In April, People Can Fly announced that it had canceled a co-op action RPG called Project Dagger. After several years of development, the company had been planning to self-publish Project Dagger after it was dropped by its original developer, Take-Two Interactive, in 2022. No announcement of layoffs yet, but I want to wish everybody the best of luck. I hope everybody lands on their feet, and I hope that the games that they're working on make it out the door sooner or later. A couple other rounds of layoffs here. Playtonic has confirmed layoffs. They said the landscape is shifting, and with it, so must we. They are the Yooka-Laylee publisher, and they released a statement confirming job losses. Numerous Playtonic staff have been posting on social media over the past week that they had lost their jobs, making it increasingly likely that these weren't individual cases and that Playtonic had conducted a round of layoffs. The company has now officially confirmed this in a statement on Twitter and Blue Sky, though it hasn't clarified how many staff are affected. This is one of those messages we never wanted to have to write, the statement reads. We've all seen in recent years how the games industry has been changing, resulting in studio after studio finding themselves in situations where, to continue to exist, they must make painful decisions and decisions that impact the lives of so many individual talented developers. Like others, we felt the knock-on effects, and after exploring every possible avenue, we had to make the incredibly heartbreaking decision to say goodbye to some of our truly brilliant members of the Playtonic team. This isn't a reflection of anyone's talent or dedication. The people leaving have poured so much heart, creativity, and care into everything we do. They've helped shape our studio, our games, and our culture, and we're incredibly proud of what we've built together. This isn't simply a difficult moment, it's a period of profound change in how games are created and financed. The landscape is shifting, and with it, so must we. This goes on for a while now. Our thoughts are with those we're parting ways with. Saying goodbye to such skilled, kind, and committed people is the hardest part of all. We always consider you part of the Playtonic family, and we'll do all we can to support your next steps. If you're reading this and you're hiring, we can't speak highly enough of our departing team members. You'd be lucky to have them. To our industry friends who may be facing similar challenges, we send you our solidarity, strength, and hope for a brighter path forward. To everyone affected, thank you truly. I'm going to just look up the Playtonic games for a moment. I think you know where I'm going with this, but what has Playtonic Games been putting out as of late? They are a video game developer founded in 2014. It consists a large part of former members of Rare. They have put out Yooka-Laylee in 2017. They put out Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. And they have announced a game called Yooka-Replaylee. I don't know what Yooka-Replaylee is. Is that a re-release of Yooka-Laylee? It's just a remastering of the other game. Really? Okay, so you guys have put out 2 games. And you're going to just put out the other game again. Okay, sure. What the hell? Now, they've also gone on to publish a variety of games. Unfortunately, it's a scenario where when you look at a lot of these games, like Demon Turf, BPM, that's bullets per minute, and Lil Gator, there are not a lot of bangers on this list. There are not a lot of like huge, whether that be like highly, like, you know, hugely successful, you know, indie games or anything like that. So like they've been putting out games under their publisher division, which is Platonic Friends, but nothing seems to have really hit since Yooka-Laylee. And I don't know that just putting out Yooka-Laylee again is going to be enough. But hey, I wish everybody involved in everybody involved in losing their jobs the best of luck, as always. And our final news story, Multiverses has officially closed down. It is now delisted. The game can still be played offline if players logged in before the servers were turned off. But the game is now offline. It is delisted. If you did not download it, you cannot buy it. Well, it's free, but anyways. That's really all I have to say. There's not a lot. There's not a lot to really say other than, hey, the game is done, and there's not much else to say. But yeah, Multiverses is like officially done. Like done. And that's all I have to say. We're going to take a final break. We'll talk about the games that I've been playing, and we're going to cover the Summer Game Fest events. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our final segment of the show. We're going to talk about the games that I have been playing, and I've been playing a little bit of games. If you have been following along for the last couple episodes, I have bounced around game to game to game to game. I was playing a lot of Fortnite. I'm still playing a little bit of Fortnite, but I was playing a lot of Fortnite. I was, messing around with Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I was playing Doom the Dark Ages. Earlier this year, I got myself into Assassin's Creed Odyssey after finishing Assassin's Creed Shadows. So I have bounced around game to game to game, and I've been trying to settle in on a small collection of games that I have been playing. If I can't narrow it down to one, I would like to keep it at like a 2 or 3 absolute maximum. And that includes something like Fortnite. Like if I'm going to bust out, a handful of hours playing Fortnite over the week, that's fine. I just don't want to commit another handful of hours to another game that might be a story game that I forget everything I'm doing in it. So let's kind of talk about the games that I've been playing. But before I do that, I want to talk about the games that I am not playing. I have dropped Claire Obscure Expedition 33 as of right now. We're discontinuing the video series 33andMe. I am no longer going to be producing any more episodes of 33andMe, which was probably my only real excuse to keep playing Expedition 33. So without making more videos, I probably won't play any more of it, but who knows, maybe I'll have the itch and I'll get back to it. I have also dropped, at least for the time being, Doom the Dark Ages as well. I think my thing going into games from this year is I gotta like them. Like, I know this sounds dumb, but like if it's a game from this year or it's a game that I'm playing in general, I gotta really like it. Like, I can't just be sitting here being like, oh, this is like a 3 out of 5 experience, but I'm going to see it through to the end or whatever. Like, no, like it's a little bit different with something like, I've been watching a lot of, as you may know, I've been watching a lot of movies this year, and I'll sit down and I'll go through a bad movie. But like, how long can a bad movie be? Like what, like 2.5 hours, maybe at most in a lot of cases. Like, even when I was watching that Transformers movie, at no point was I like, God, I should have gotten off this thing a long time ago. Cause it's like, it's going to be over eventually. And I don't even really have to do anything versus the interactive nature of a game. Like, if I'm not loving Claire Obscure Expedition 33 and I keep playing through it, I still need to use some part of my brain to maneuver my way through that game. Same thing with Doom the Dark Ages. So it's not so much that like, I don't want to play games that I think are okay. It's that I think right now, with where I'm at and with how distracted and how bored I can very easily get right now, it's either a game where I can completely turn off my brain and just play through it and have fun while, you know, wrestling is on in the background, or YouTube is on, or, you know, maybe it's a thing where like, oh, I'm playing through this game, but really I'm just using it as an excuse to watch some of the showcases from Summer Game Fest that maybe happened earlier this week and stuff like that. Versus like, oh, all I've done is eat, sleep, and breathe Doom the Dark Ages, and in my time doing that, I think the game is okay. Like, it's got to be like turn the brain off, dumb, or it has got to be something that I really, really enjoy and I'm really engrossed by. And so far, like, the stuff from this year has not really engrossed me the way that a game about digging a hole or Assassin's Creed Shadows has been. And in fairness, like, I think Assassin's Creed Shadows is an okay game, but it kept my attention throughout my time playing it, which is something that Claire Obscure and Doom haven't been able to do. And in the case of something like a game about digging a hole, that's a very short game. It took 2 hours. Like, you know, in the time it takes me to decide if I like a game or not, I was able to finish a game about digging a hole, and turns out I enjoyed my time with that game. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, this is game of the year material, but I've been thinking about game of the year a little bit differently this year because of, you know, maybe how I feel about the games that I have played from this year and the games that I played, you know, from, you know, different times. Like, it's almost weird for me to sit here and be like, well, I don't know if there's a game that, I'm just looking at my list. I think I have a list here somewhere. Like, I don't know if there's a game that I have played so far this year that I have enjoyed as much as Mass Effect 1, right? The remaster of Mass Effect 1. So that's a thing where it's just like, you know, if that's how I'm feeling about games this year and maybe games in general right now in my life, you know, I'm not going to worry too much about what I do and don't miss on game releases from this year. I did make a video, you know, kind of asking people like, hey, what are some of your favorite games from this year? And a lot of the game recommendations that I got just either I have not touched or don't interest me. Like, you know, I love the idea that people are really enjoying Monster Hunter Wilds, but Monster Hunter Wilds also sounds and looks unappealing to me. I think I had some other recommendations that people had that I was going to pull up here, you know, kind of asking people like, what are some of your favorite games? And like, someone mentioned Tainted Grail, which is a first person open world action RPG, very similar to a Avowed, or very similar to a Oblivion Remastered. And I played the bit of the demo and I thought to myself, good God, this game is a little on the budget side, a little on the janky side, which in theory shouldn't be that bad. But it's a thing where regardless of the budget of a game, I like the idea of playing a game that doesn't feel cheap. And I think the reason why I say that is because I want a game that makes effective use of the budget that it has in terms of style, scope, polish, production quality, stuff like that, right? A game can have a small budget and do a lot of amazing things. I think in the case of Tainted Grail, it's just like, oh, this is like a cheap version of Avowed or a cheap version of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, a game I also haven't played. or a cheap version of Oblivion remastered. And it was like really hard for me to justify even bothering to play through the rest of the demo, considering that there are other better games in that exact style that came out this year that I haven't gotten around to playing. People also really looking forward to Death Stranding 2 on the beach. However, I have not played Death Stranding 1, and my understanding is you better have an understanding of the story in Death Stranding 1 if you want to get through Death Stranding 2, which means that then I got to go and play a game just to get ready for another game. And if I did that, I would probably go back and play Mass Effect 2. So again, that's kind of where I'm at, so I can get ready for Mass Effect 3. So that's kind of where I'm at. You know, people mentioning Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which is awesome, but like I've only played Yakuza Kiwami 1. I have so many other games in that series to get to before I even came close to Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. And then there were just some shitty people being like, oh, you liked Assassin's Creed Shadows, you should get better standards. And I'm like, ah, fuck off. Like when people say like, here's a game that I really, really like, you know, when they're talking to me, when people talk to me about games they really, really like, and then have to put down other games as part of that process, it just comes across as so shitty. Like, why would I ever continue to play Expedition 33, a game that a lot of people like, if I'm likely to engage in assholes who want to raise the status of Expedition 33 by putting down other like completely unrelated games? Like if you were to sit here and be like, oh, I really liked Expedition 33, but I really didn't like Metaphor, or I really didn't like Persona 3 Reloaded, or here's some other JRPG like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, like here's some other Metaphor, ReFantazio, whatever. Like if you were to like, oh, here's other games like it that I didn't like, but I really like this one, I'd be like way more willing to like hear people out when it comes to that. But instead they're like, oh, well, I really liked Expedition 33 because this, and this, but Assassin's Creed Shadows, get fucked. I'm like, man, you get fucked. Like, what are we doing? Like, I understand that like we can draw a lot of similarities between, you know, games, but like when you are literally comparing apples to oranges just because you don't like one of the two fruits in conversation, you have completely lost the plot. You will often discourage people from engaging in the thing that you love, because why would I enjoy things that people love if I hate the people that love them? Right. And you could say this about like a lot of fandom. You could say this about a lot of, you know, art and entertainment and other things people like. It's just like, oh, you like this thing? God, everything about you comes across as so awful and annoying that I would never want to engage in the thing that you like. And this was just a unique scenario of me, you know, bringing about this conversation through social media. Like, I understand. I was asking for it. I get it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, wow, I can't believe people were dicks on the internet. And in fairness, this was like one dick on the internet. Other people recommending Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. But again, it's a scenario where like, if I haven't played through all of Avowed, which I'm waiting for those updates to come out, if I haven't played all through Oblivion Remastered, I am going to have a hard time justifying going and getting another one of those open world action RPGs, fantasy, medieval RPGs, whatever you want to call it, just to get to that. So those are the games that I haven't been playing. I did play a 2025 game, but it's a scenario where I bounced off of it. Deliver at All Costs is an open world driving game brought to you by your friends at Konami. And on paper, Deliver at All Costs seems like a fucking rad game. It is a destruction focused, zany, open world driving game where you are making deliveries from place to place in a variety of vehicles, in a variety of different scenarios. On paper, it sounds awesome. In practice, it is slow, it is tedious, and at times it's just kind of frustrating and counterintuitive to what it is trying to be. So, I got this game courtesy of Epic Games. It came out for free as part of the Epic Games store. And I'm just going to pull up some details here just so I can get the story straight about like how I describe the game. And then I'll talk about more about like how I feel about it and things like that in a moment. I'm just loading it up here. Deliver at all costs. I'm going to deliver to you the premise of the game as well. It's a 1959 game, kind of in a world, it's a game set in 1959, rock and roll polka dot dresses in the ever looming dread of nuclear annihilation. Step into the shoes of Winston Green, a down on his luck courier with a fiery temper and a mysterious past, as he delivers highly unconventional cargo, leaving a trail of havoc and chaos behind him, ensuring he does what it takes to deliver at all costs. So, you're like driving, like you can drive through pretty much any building in the game. Like it's one of those things where like you can take like a family sedan with the wood paneling on it and just drive through a building to, little damage to yourself and the character and stuff. And it's neat. I think that's kind of cool. And I think the aesthetics of like 1959 and crazy driving, it's goofy, it's fine. I think that what you actually do in the game kind of sucks. So there are a lot of cutscenes in the game. You can skip them, but there are a lot of cutscenes that just draw on this story and the characters and the dialogue. Like it's a game that takes way too, for a simple premise of like drive crazy cars and do ridiculous deliveries, it just takes way too long to get going. And even when it gets going, every time it tries to justify the next mission, the next story, what point or whatever, it just really drags the game, if I'm being honest. It is a game that like does itself a disservice by trying to explain all of the things that it has going for it in any given time, which I was not a fan of. And then you get to the actual driving, and it seems like either a really long tutorial or the game doesn't trust you to get to the parts that are supposed to be the most fun. There's a level where you are driving a pickup truck and there are a bunch, and it's like, you open up the back of the truck and you're dumping like melons, like fruit into the truck. And it becomes this thing of like, okay, you have 60 melons in the truck and you will fail the mission if you let them fall out of the truck, of the back of the bed of the truck. And if you have less than 20 melons by the time you reach your delivery point, the mission fails. And it's like kind of fun to see the melons all like floating around and rumbling around in the back of this truck. And then you hit a hill or of some kind, and like 30 melons fly out the back of the truck and the mission fails. They're like, it's really dumb that I'm delivering melons in this way, but like in a game where I'm supposed to be driving through a lot of buildings and crashing through things and making my own shortcuts in this open world, the idea of having to like delicately balance melons in the back of a truck or like maybe counterintuitive to the way the game wants to be played. It's also an open world game where the open world is not super open. It is all based off of zones. So you're kind of entering one zone to another with loading screens. And I think that kind of breaks up the flow of the game as well. Like it'd be nice if the world was one single complete structure and not segmented off by, oh, we're going to downtown, or this is uptown, or this is the industrial area, or this is this. Like it'd be nice if it was just like, it's one open world, just drive to your heart's content. So I ended up bouncing off of this game a lot faster than I thought I was going to. It's $40 on the Epic Game Store, which I think is steep. Even if I liked it, I think this game would probably be a little steep for what you get. If this game was like a $20 thing or whatever, that would be okay. But yeah, like on its face, deliver at all costs should be awesome. In practice, it's not that awesome. So I'm going to bounce off that game if it's all right. And if I don't talk about it again, well, you know why. So then I was looking at like other games to play. I was like, God, there's got to be something out there that I can play. And I was looking through my Epic Game Store, because I had finished up my time with Deliver at All Costs. And I remembered that I had Darksiders War Mastered Edition. Darksiders is a PS3, Xbox 360 era third-person action adventure game. Think a little bit of like, God of War or something like that, in terms of like there's combat, you're fighting demons and monsters and creatures and stuff like that, but you also have the puzzle solving and the jumping and the climbing, and there's actually a fair bit of puzzles in this game as well. And I remember playing Darksiders back when it originally came out on the PS3. I just never finished it, and I just thought to myself, you know what, like, this is going to be an older game, so it probably isn't that complicated in the grand scheme of things. And I remember liking it at the time. I just never finished it. I just needed an excuse to go back. So that is what I have done. I have given myself an excuse to go back and play Darksiders as part of the War Mastered Edition. That is also out on a variety of platforms. I think you can get it on like PS4 and Xbox and stuff like that. It's got a really cool premise. Maybe like the style of the game might seem a little silly now, but the premise of the game is that you play as War, one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And War is the first person on the scene at the apocalypse. However, he arrives before the apocalypse starts, and his arrival, this is all explained like the very first couple, minutes of the game. Basically, War shows up to be like, hey, I'm here to help with the apocalypse and to defend, to keep the balance between heaven and hell and all of this stuff. And when he arrives, everyone's like, oh, I guess the apocalypse is starting. And basically, War is blamed for starting the apocalypse, accused of breaking the sacred law by inciting a war between heaven and hell. And that's what plunges, like, and basically the game takes place in like a modern day kind of time period, right? It's like fake New York or whatever you want to call it. When the game starts, it's like, oh, there's like buses that are on fire and people are running and screaming and news reports, and you can watch like stock tickers go down in the world around you and all this stuff. And basically, War is blamed for starting the apocalypse, even though he was just called upon to get there. But when he got there, it had not actually officially started yet. So he basically is blamed for triggering the apocalypse, and then he is given the opportunity to return to Earth like a 100 years after the apocalypse has happened, to figure out what is going on. He is hunted by these angels. He's fighting hell demons and forming allies with these other creatures and all this stuff in the remains of Earth. So you're kind of like, you'll run through like abandoned parking lots that have like cars that have been, burnt down and stuff like that. You're traveling through lava pits. You're swimming through, like flooded areas of the modern civilization and stuff. And it's neat. Again, I can't stress enough. Like if you played like a God of War or something like that, like, how this works. You're going to be running, you're jumping, you're doing some puzzles, you're cutting demons, you're doing boss battles, you're getting upgrades for weapons and equipping new weapons and using special meter abilities to do extra damage and all of that stuff. I think the thing about it is that it is maybe a little bit of a slower, quieter game at times when you're just running and jumping and puzzle solving, and like, oh, you enter a world that like you entered a level that like has a lava pit, and there are like 6 pillars, 6 pillars surrounding the lava, and you have to trigger the individual pulley and lever systems to get these pillars to the right height so you can jump across the area and stuff like that. I think it's a lot of fun. I obviously maybe a little simple compared to what you would do in God of War Ragnarok or something like that. But I think it's neat. I think it's all right. I also have the second game, which is Darksiders 2. And I think that update is called Definitive Edition because you play as Death in the second game. So you play as Death, the other 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And I believe in Darksiders 2, it takes place concurrently with, I think it takes place sometime around when the first game is happening, and you basically play as Death, and you are out to try to clear War's name as part of that process. I believe, I could be wrong exactly with how that goes. Kind of an open-ish world, but you're teleporting between the worlds. Like, I think if you were to run from the areas, it would be super, super boring. So they offer you the ability to do fast travel. I think you get a horse at some point in this game, but I have not gotten the horse yet. I think I'm about like 4 hours in or so into this game. I think How Long to Beat estimates like maybe 17 to 20 hours. So, I'm making my way through the game, maybe a third-ish of the way through it. Not quite, maybe a quarter-ish of the way through it, but I'm enjoying it. It's just the thing of like, oh, I'm going to bang out some of these puzzles. I'm going to clear this enemy, area and get my upgrades and move on so far. So that's kind of what I have been playing. I don't know, if I'll commit to finishing it anytime soon. I don't know if I'll go back to Mass Effect. I really should go back to Mass Effect 2, like, especially now that there's like this downtime for me. I feel like I should just like bite the bullet and be like, fuck it, I got to finish Mass Effect 2. At least that'll be off my list. But you tell me, like, you've been hearing me talking about this. Like, should I go back and keep playing through Assassin's Creed Odyssey? Should I finish up Mass Effect 2? Should I keep going with Darksiders? Should I go back and give something like Avowed a chance, or should I wait until those updates for Avowed come out? Am I really missing out by not playing Oblivion Remastered, or is there some other new game that I have missed out on that I should play? Someone was talking about Schedule 1, which is the first-person drug dealing simulator, and that game looks like a lot of fun. It's just a scenario where I'd have to buy it. So I got a lot of games on my backlog. I got a lot of old games that I could be playing. I got some recent games that I've been playing. So I'm just trying to figure out what those next games are going to be. But let's not talk about the present. Let's not talk about the past. Let's look towards the future. We're going to wrap the show up just quickly running through what you can expect from Summer Game Fest one last time with their schedule, because by the time we're back next week, we'll talk all things announced at Summer Game Fest. Starting today, June 4th at 2 p.m., you got the PlayStation State of Play. June 6th at 2 p.m., you got the Summer Game Fest. At 4 p.m., immediately following Summer Game Fest, you have the Day of the Devs Showcase. At 5 p.m., Devolver Digital is going to be doing a showcase dedicated to one developer and one game. That is Kenny Sun's upcoming game, Ball Pit. That is at 5 p.m. June 6th. 9 a.m. June 7th, we have the Wholesome Game Direct. If you want to look at cozy games and indie games of all shapes and sizes, check out the Wholesome Direct. That is at 9 a.m. June 7th. 10 a.m. on June 7th, we have the Woman-Led Games Showcase. That's June 7th, 10 a.m. June 7th at 11 a.m., we have the Latin American Games Showcase. That's at 11 a.m. June 7th. June 7th at 12 p.m., we have the Southeast Asian Games Showcase. June 7th at 1 p.m., we have the Green Games Showcase. That is a discovery of the world's most exciting games and how they are driving real world change. June 7th, 4 p.m., we have the Frosty Games Fest. That is a showcase of the coolest upcoming games made by Australia and New Zealand. June 8th, one of the biggest showcases is the Xbox Direct. June 8th, 10 a.m. That is going to be followed immediately by the Outer Worlds 2 Direct. June 8th at 12 p.m. we have the PC Gaming Showcase. June 8th, 7 p.m. we have a game premiere for Death Stranding 2 on the Beach. Join Hideo Kojima and cast for a live demonstration of Death Stranding 2 hosted by Jeff Keighley. And then finally, June 9th at 9 a.m., we have the Summer Game Fest Black Voices in Gaming. And that is happening again, June 9th, 9 a.m. A fantastic schedule of stuff to find. IGN is also doing their IGN Games of Summer Showcase, whatever they're calling it, which are just Tons of games, indie games, big games, small games, exclusive to IGN, all throughout the showcase if you want to check that out. But basically, in about 2 hours, we got that PlayStation showcase. So I'm going to wrap this show up and get ready to watch that. And we will see you all next week. Thank you so much for watching, listening, hanging out. We'll see you all next week. Take it easy.